She was one of the last to leave, and before I realized what I'd done, I grabbed her wrist. It made her freeze in her tracks. The shock of actually touching her skin was so intense it nearly had me staggering. It was a good thing the desk was at my back or I really would've. Lust slammed into me as if the floodgates had been opened. I was almost instantly hard and craving for her body, my eyes surely darkening to black. I knew I had to look away from her golden orbs, but it seemed an impossible task. My mouth felt parched. I wondered what her kiss would taste like. She was trembling, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open to show me the tempting moistness inside. Oh damn, all 7 hells. Someone stop me before I really do kiss her right here on the spot. Mr. Clitton? Sarah's voice interrupted us just at that moment. Bless my sister. I let go off Brittany's wrist instantly, stepping back a little. Don't be late again. Next time we'll land you a detention. Oh, why did I say that? I sounded so harsh and gruff. She was going to hate me for sure. Her eyes had widened further at my words, and I could tell she was shocked. I hurried to ease her mind. Don't worry, I'm sure you won't get lost a second time. I added a wink for good measure, to show her I wasn't all that serious. She nodded slowly, her mouth closing with a snap, as if she only now realized it had been open. It won't happen again, I promise, Mr. Clitton, she said with her melodic voice. Then she hurriedly sped from the room. You are in deep shit, brother, was all Sarah said to me as she followed the angel. She cast me one look over her shoulder that told me we were going to have a very long talk on the way home. I wasn't sure I was gonna like it. I wasn't sure I cared though, because all my mind was screaming was, you found your mate. Your soulmate. Follow her. Get her. Make her yours. Mark her. It took a lot of effort to remain seated on my desk, like I usually did. It took a hell of a lot of effort. My body yearned to go after Brittany just as much as my mind. I really needed to calm down first though. I sat down heavily in my chair. I found my soulmate, and she's a student and I'm her teacher. She's a human and I'm a vampire. All I knew was she's going to be mine. This I were had, my fun, like I miss, howdy millie, howdy my, I miss side. I miss I, will like a tabas, or like a tab, I miss I've. Simus, I've. It didn't appear like Sarah had much friends, but she didn't care much about that. To my surprise, the only one who joined us at our table was the guy with the mohawk, the one that didn't speak all that much and wasn't interested in Jennifer. He cast me a curious glance and then looked at Sarah, but he didn't utter a word. Sarah introduced him as, this is Bob. Don't bother trying to get him to talk. He hates talking. She rolled her eyes at the boy's stupidity or something of the like, then compared my schedule to hers, smiling when it turned out we had 2 more classes together. Even more shockingly, Bob peered over my schedule and then said he had the only other class left with me. He cast me a friendly look before saying, at least you won't be alone in any of your classes now. Sarah winked at me. Wow, you're being nice, Bob. Since when did that happen? But the sarcastic comment didn't faze the boy. In fact, he just shrugged and went back to disinterestingly fussing with his food. Wasn't he hungry? I talked with Sarah for the rest of the lunch break until I heard the conversation at the table over getting louder. It was the table Jennifer was sitting at, and she was definitely the center of attention. A large crowd surrounding her. Nothing is impossible. I heard Jennifer scoff. She still did it beautifully, of course. Nothing she did on purpose would ever make her look anything but that. She made sure of it. He will be mine. By the end of the month, he won't be able to resist, my stepsister continued, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger. I wasn't sure who she was talking about, but I had the feeling it was Mr. Clitton, our English teacher. As if to confirm that thought, Jennifer said in response to someone, no one is able to resist me, girl, not even Mr. Stay. Clitton. Sarah made a choking sound, and one look at her face told me she was trying to hold back a laugh. Shaking her head, the pretty brunette exchanged a look with Bob, intertwining the fingers of her hands in a curious way while nodding in my direction. Bob stiffened and then looked at me, as if seeing me for the first time. Then he nodded slowly, as if he could see what she meant. Guys? I asked them wonderingly. Yo! Nothing, hun, Sarah said with a smile. I just find it so funny that your stepsister thinks she can get our brother to fall for her. Brother? Is she talking about Mr. Clitton? I nearly spit out my drink as I stared them. I hadn't even realized Bob and Sarah were siblings. Mr. Clitton is your brother? I asked, shocked. Bob nodded, a smile on his lips as Sarah said a little crankily, Yeah, it really sucks, you know. Your own brother teaching at your school. I never get a date. All the boys are scared of him. That just had to make me laugh, and Bob joined in. Can't be that bad, Sarah. At least you don't have a stepsister who steals all the boys away. True, she smiled at me, but her eyes were twinkling as if she knew something I didn't again. Then she said, I think we're gonna be best friends. The rest of the day passed by in a blur. It was great having either Sarah or Bob around. It meant I didn't get lost again and that the teachers didn't bother me either. Except one class. The rest of my classes were all without Jennifer. I found my thoughts wandering though, and as I doodled through most of my classes, I realized that I'd been drawing the same thing over and over again. A pair of stormy gray eyes. I couldn't be falling for my English teacher. That was wrong. It couldn't be. It was even worse that he was apparently the brother of the two people I'd become friends with today. But the tingling sensations I'd felt when I first laid eyes on him, or the shock of electricity going through me when he grabbed my wrist, that was something I'd never experienced before. Or the fact that it was so hard to look away from his eyes once they'd captured mine. He'd been staring at me. I knew he had been. Sarah had definitely noticed something between us. She'd been smirking at her brother and me the whole time. When school was finally over, I waved at Sarah and Bob as they sauntered over to a flashy red car that looked very fast and expensive. They stood waiting next to it, so I knew it belonged to Mr. Clitton. I wasn't surprised. He seemed like the type to like fast cars. Dannis was already there too, waiting with the car, so I made my way over to him, trying my best to ignore the stares and glaring at those who did try to approach me. It seemed like with Sarah and Bob gone, their protection was too. When I reached Dannis, he smiled at me and opened his arms for a hug. It wasn't very professional on his part, but I guessed he saw how harried I felt, offering some comfort. As I hugged him, I felt immediately a little more relaxed, and I smiled at him gratefully. The sudden feeling that someone was glaring at me made me whirl around though, only to meet those stormy gray eyes from all the way across the parking lot. Mr. Clitton was standing right next to his car, his fists clenched. I didn't see Sarah or Bob, so they must have already been in the car. Was my English teacher seriously glaring at me because I'd hugged the driver? Dannis suddenly draped his arm around my waist, the gesture a little defiant as if he was doing it on purpose to vex Mr. Clitton. Well, that's one teacher who doesn't seem to like you, I heard Dannis say as Mr. Clitton finally turned around and got into his car. He sped off a little recklessly, especially for a teacher. I was late for his class because I got lost, I offered as an explanation, shrugging out of Dannis's embrace and hurrying into the car. I was glad to be finally out of sight of everyone. I really hated attention. It took a while before Jennifer showed up, but I didn't mind. It was fun talking to Dannis. He was very easygoing and relaxed. He made me laugh at silly jokes, and I felt really at ease around him. So at ease that I even started to forget about Mr. Clitton and his beautiful stormy gray eyes. When she did show up, she still wasn't alone. There was one boy carrying her backpack. He was cute, but certainly not handsome. I guessed he only got to carry her backpack because she felt sorry for him. Two more guys flanked her, both buff and handsome. Obviously, they would be part of the football team or something. 3 more girls were with her, and they all looked a little green behind her back. I guess that would be her new besties, as Jennifer called her fake girlfriends. She kissed the 2 football players each on the cheek as she said goodbye, and then turned to hug all 3 girls, giving them air kisses. That was a habit I really didn't get. All those girls hated each other's guts, yet they pretended to love each other. The Jennifer slipped into the front seat at long last and imperiously told Dannis to start driving. She barely spared him a glance now, lost in thought. It was unusual behavior for her, but I didn't comment. Instead, both Dannis and I remained quiet, sharing the occasional glance through the rearview mirror. Once he started pulling funny faces, though, it was hard not to laugh. I had to slap my hand across my mouth to keep from making noise. I didn't want to wake the beast. At home, Jennifer left the garage in a hurry, her usual gracefulness disappearing completely. But I took my time, sharing a few more jokes with Dannis, most of them about Jennifer. Then I said goodbye and followed my stepsister into the house. I could not believe my day had gone so well, making 2 friends at school and possibly a friend at home as well. Dannis was extremely nice and funny. Then I remembered the date I had promised to go on with him. Did he want to be more than friends? Immediately I remembered Mr. Clitton and I felt my cheeks tingle as I blushed. That would never work out. It would be much better if I'd set my eyes on Dannis instead, although he was a little old for me too. As I stepped into the house, I heard yelling. It was clear it was Jennifer. She always screeched at the tops of her lungs to her mother if she was upset with something. I wondered what that was. I hoped it had nothing to do with me. Brittany Lee, my little brother squealed as he sped around the corner to hug my leg with a death grip. I couldn't help but smile. "Hey, Giant," I told him as I affectio-Alexly rubbed his head. His golden brown eyes stared up at mine with such intense happiness that I knew he'd had a horrible day. His nanny came around the corner then, an elderly woman with a stern face this time. She looked a little flustered. I guessed it was from having to chase my impulsive, hyperactive little brother. "Oh, there you are, Andy," the woman panted as she spotted us. I saw him scrunch up his face as he tugged on my shirt, telling me to get down to his level. As I bent down, he whispered in my ear, "I don't like her. She's mean." "Of course," he whispered loud enough for the nanny to hear. She scoffed, as if she'd heard it a few times before and didn't believe him. I patted his head. "Don't worry, hey, it'll be fine, I promise. I won't let anyone hurt you." I wish someone would look out for me as well, but I knew that was just wishful thinking. As if they'd heard me think it, my stepmom suddenly yelled, "Brittany, get over here now." I couldn't help but flinch. I knew Jennifer had been screeching about something I'd done. "Sorry, Giant, I gotta go." "Talk to you later, Gay," I told my little brother, ruffling his dark hair again. "Behave, okay? I'll read you a story tonight." Andy nodded his little head, his face scrunched up. "Careful, Am. Stephanie is unhappy," he whispered before following his nanny meekly back into the kitchen.